back to another episode of Sideways Rain. My name is Chris, your host, alongside my co-host JR Spees. We are here with you all on another Friday. Happy Friday to everyone. Quick shout out, I want to just say I hope everyone's staying safe during the Canada wildfires. I know that a lot of us are being impacted by that. So please stay vigilant, do what you can to take care of yourselves and all of that good stuff. Today we're bringing you another guest on our episode today. Her name is Alyssa, and most of our guests, they bring us one storm. You know, one story where a show went wrong, one story where a huge career change was made and how they navigated that. But today's guest, Alyssa, she came to us and said that she has had 1,000 paper cuts that have helped her learn and grow and shape her career. And I can't wait to jump into those 1,000 paper cuts.
Yeah, like most of us, Alyssa did not set out to plan events. Do any of us end up here on purpose? It just feels like an accident all the time. She slid into it from the front desk of an insurance office in college, and 15 years later, she's a CMP, certified meeting planner, running her own shop. Along the way, she collected tons of paper cuts, just like we all do. A venue signed before the crew could load in, a budget built on a number that was never real, a speaker she could not get on the phone. None of them sank her, all of them sharpened her. Today, she tells us how 1,000 cuts became a kind of strength. So with that, here comes the rain. Alyssa, welcome to Sideways Rain. A quick reminder for the audience of our storm, umbrella, clear skies format. We'll follow all of those in Alyssa's journey. But to give you some background, Alyssa is a CMP with 15 years in meetings, events, and incentive travel, founder and principal event strategist of Covalent Events and Travel. I'm sure we'll get into that as well. Slid into the industry from Northwestern Mutual front desk in college, hired for a graphic design job, then got handed events. I'm sure a lot of you have a similar story. Grew into the director of marketing and communications from that Minnesota network, 6 offices. Her first event ever was a check presentation at Masonic Children's Hospital with Jay Scott of Alex's Lemonade Stand Foundation, which is a great group. Learned planning 100% on the job. Then found MPI, went from a committee member to director of membership care during the pandemic, and was VP of membership through 2023. The name of Covalent Events is a chemistry reference. A covalent bond is atoms sharing a hold together. Her philosophy: the event is the vehicle, the bond is the point. Alyssa, what did we miss?
Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me onto the podcast, but I think you really covered it. I'm really honored for this opportunity, and I don't think anything that I say is going to be profound, but I think it will be very relatable to anybody in the industry, and hopefully those that are just getting their career started in the industry can learn from my mistakes.
Yeah, relatable material is what we're all about. I'm sure you will say something profound, and we'll put it on social media so people can remember it forever.
Agreed.
All right, let's start with the storm. And you told us yours was not just one storm. It was 1,000 small cuts. Just take us into that.
Yeah, so unless I'm repressing some awful memory, I can't think of anything in my career that was really catastrophic that happened. But I do have a ton of moments throughout my career that are singed into my memory from mistakes that I've made. And at the time, it felt like the world was ending. And then just with experience, you really gain more perspective, and the cuts hurt a little bit less.
Yeah, you said, sorry, go ahead, Chris.
No, go ahead, JR.
Oh, no, you said the cuts at that time when you were going through them, new in the industry, not really the job you signed up for, they felt like gashes. And I can relate to that as well. There's certain moments that we've had here that just felt like a big deal. And when we look back on them, we were just like, what the hell were we so worried about? Take us back to those moments. What did it feel like before you had the reps to be able to shrug it off?
Well, I will give one example. From very early in my career, I was planning a recognition gala, and this one hurt particularly bad because it was kind of public criticism, but I was trying to balance the whole like dietary restriction thing that we all deal with, right? Where people are gluten-free, dairy-free, vegan, vegetarian, and it's really hard to develop a menu on that that's consistent, that aligns with like a venue or a caterer's expectations of like what they'll offer you without a bunch of upcharges. And so for dessert, the catering director was like, "Hey, we have this dessert called berry gili. It's dairy free, it's gluten free, vegetarian. Luckily, we didn't have any vegans attending that event." And I didn't think anything of it. Like when I work with an event partner, they're that expert, right? And I trust them to make decisions because I'm not an expert in catering. And so I was running around like an event planner usually does while the program is going on. I was making sure like the band was in the green room getting ready for the close of the program, and dessert was being plated. So I didn't see the dessert as it was coming out, and I never asked for a picture. I didn't ask enough questions, I learned. And when I did finally make it into the ballroom and see the presentation, berry gili was basically a jello jiggler with some berries on it. And this was a black tie function, so I was mortified.
Oh my goodness.
But I asked some of the guests, like, "Hey, is this as bad as I think it is?" And they were all very kind, and they're like, "Nah, it's not a big deal." I said, "Don't worry." So then the after party happened, and I didn't let it like eat away at me. But then after the teardown, I go back to my hotel room, I open up my phone and I open up Facebook. And one of the spouses of the guests made a very public Facebook post about how the executive team couldn't spring for at least warm cookies.
Oof.
And yeah, and like there were so many comments, and I couldn't bear to read them in that moment. I was just kind of like, I don't know, destroyed with that. But the next day, like I woke up, I opened it up to see if it was still there. It was still there. And like to my pleasant surprise, one of the executive leaders chimed in, commented on it, and was like, "Hey, like I think you're being very rude." And so her public criticism was met with public criticism to kind of like, clean up your act. And then she took it down shortly after. But that was one of those moments that it was like, oh my gosh, like this is so public. Like it wasn't in a post-event survey. It wasn't in the moment feedback. And so that one hurt a lot. But as time goes on, like you learn that there's always going to be a squeaky wheel. You learn that not everybody's going to be happy. And so you learn how to deal with that situation in the moment to not really eat at you like it had eaten at me, because I didn't have that experience yet.
Oh my God. Especially with food.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I can only imagine like having so many of these examples that I'm sure you can share with us. Is there ever a point that you get to where they don't affect you at like the same way that they did in the beginning stages, or do they still affect you every single time that they arise in that way?
For this particular example, like with unhappy guests, it doesn't bother me as much because I do know that you can't make everybody happy. And oftentimes, like, they just want to be heard. And so you smile, you acknowledge that, okay, yes, this was a missite. And if it was like pretty impactful, you note that down for the next time and you don't make that mistake again. But if it's something that really isn't impacting the rest of the audience and it's just like a personal preference of theirs, with perspective, like maybe you note that for the future if that guest is at that event.
But to your point, I've been at a ton of events, both on the customer side and on the client side, on the staff side. I've seen it all. And to your point, guests are always going to find something that they want to voice their opinion about. Some are valid, some are invalid, some just want to talk to somebody and complain, I've learned. And the way that I look at it is it's always positive if someone wants to come to you and share their opinion. because one, they're giving you feedback, and two, you can figure out what to do with that feedback to either learn from it, make the experience better, or just overall share it with your team to take it back to the drawing board and figure out if this is something that you guys should dive into a little bit more. So I'm sure that you've had similar experiences where it opens up ideas and ways to improve an event, improve the planning process, and just overall improve the attendee experience.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, as humans, we have this amazing gift of consciousness and memory. And because of that, we get this great ability where we can punish ourselves over and over and over again for things that we've done in the past. Like if you're a squirrel and you're, chasing food and you get attacked by a coyote, that thing happened and then they forget about it and then everything's instinct after that. We get this ability to just like continue to punish ourselves over and over and over again. And sometimes that can really beat us up. The hard part is sort of compartmentalizing the noise from what's actually affecting the event. And a lot of times that feedback doesn't have anything to do with you, but it has to do with that person. So that person that is flagging this on social media for whatever reason is transferring their pain to you, right? So like maybe in the past that has happened to them or they got sold out on their dinner party and now they're doing it to you and we pass this pain along. Humans are mean.
For sure.
But it's good to understand like, hey, in that moment that's sinking, like at some points it's existential. Like, am I good at this? Like, what am I doing? But then we figure it out and we move on. Like holistically, we're good. This is just one person's opinion. You mentioned a venue cut. Tell us about the signing of the venue before you understand what the production team actually needed for load in and strike. I'm particularly interested in this being on the production side and also with the tool that we've built. What broke and what's the rule you follow now?
Yeah, so this was a situation where I inherited a contract from a previous planner. They weren't with the organization anymore, and I was hired to take that position. So they had already gotten like budget approval from the board. It was with an association specifically. So all of these things had to be approved by a group of people. And it was done. So it was done before the run of show was created, before the other event partners were selected, before any of the other estimates were collected as well. And so when it came time to really like step on the gas and start planning this and selecting vendor partners to work with, the production company that I worked with, they were going to sponsor in kind all of their time and resources and whatnot, which was incredible. And so they really wanted to bring out all the bells and whistles because they were showcasing their service, their products, and the room was full of other decision makers for conferences and events. So yeah, they really wanted to go all out with it, which created additional time that wasn't planned for in the contracting process. And so it didn't hurt as bad because I wasn't responsible for that contract initially, but I was responsible for coming up with a solution and being able to figure this out. And I'm certified in contract negotiation. And so this was kind of fun because it was an opportunity for me to negotiate. And it's a lot harder to negotiate after the contract is signed.
Yes.
So having all of these details in advance is really nice. I would say before the pandemic, suppliers were a lot more lenient with their contracts, and like the havoc that the pandemic caused, it really created more rigid rules and like, abiding by the contract as it's written. So we were able to figure it out. We were able to load in a little earlier in the morning rather than the night before. It did put a little bit more pressure on the AV team, but that really it became part of my process to not jump the gun and contract with venues right away. Sometimes there's a bit of like a fear tactic that they present, like, the venue might not be available. It might go up in price, what have you, but you can always ask for like a first right of refusal.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not stringing the venue along, you're still being a great event partner. And if another opportunity arises and you're still not ready to sign that contract, you should give it up. Um, but also, if you have really strong relationships, like I did with this AV company, they're able to turn things around for you a lot faster because you have that relationship. So your
Sure.
request kind of goes to the top of their pile. And then another thing that you can do is if you have that trusted partner that you worked on a conference with before, you have that old event order. So you can kind of piece together a budget and get a ballpark idea. And you also have an idea of how much load in time they need based on what that program was. So there were definitely a lot of things to learn from it.
Mhm.
And I wouldn't say it was easy. It took some like begging and pleading with the venue, but in the end, they were very accommodating.
Yeah, there was a little nugget there that maybe some people don't know about, but asking for that first right of refusal is a huge deal because a lot of the stress that we get in events is the unknown. So like, hey, when I'm ready to contract, is this actually going to be available? But that gives you the safety of knowing like, hey, if they haven't called or emailed me, it is still available and we can still move forward. So the other piece you mentioned was post-pandemic, because we've seen this too. Huge wave of events and a lot less flexibility from venues, I'm finding, because they just have the volume where they don't have to negotiate. So once you're under contract, it's incredibly hard to change terms. How important is it to set the right terms before signature?
So important. And if you're doing it all, if you're working with in this industry and you're seeing contracts every day and you're negotiating every day, you know it can be negotiated and you have language in your back pocket where like, hey, could you add this clause to it to give yourself a little bit more flexibility? But I would say those that aren't in this industry, that don't do it every day, might not have that knowledge to be able to do that, and two, using the right language in the right clauses.
In addition to that, I know budgeting is a huge thing, right? We're all given like a huge round number as the budget. Can you walk us through some of the cuts that you've suffered from quoting jobs or quoting events with minimum budget and kind of what you learned from the no-nos of that and how you can now move forward with a much more clear mindset when it comes to a budget and how that translates to a more successful event?
Yeah, one of the things that comes to mind right away is a big variance could be the cost of food. So
Mm.
when you contract a year or 2 years out, you have to account for inflation. And so something that I always require in contracts now is the food and beverage, the pricing of like the entrees or whatever can only exceed by like 5% from what is published at time of signing. And again, if you don't know that you can ask that, you won't, right? But venues are very flexible with that, and they do understand that you have a budget that you have to work with, and that cost can completely blow up your budget 2 years or a year later from signing if that's not already established.
That's huge. I mean, if you don't
Yeah,
have that
that
in
is
place,
huge.
they can dictate whatever they want.
Yeah,
Okay, you said
taxes
you weren't
can
going to say
change.
anything profound, but I didn't know that.
Well,
Yeah,
good.
I'm it's making me feel like negotiating contracts is almost like buying a car. There's so much unknown that if you come to the table and you're not bringing these things up, the dealership or the venue is just going to kind of glaze over these things and you're left holding the bill. So, yeah, I'm learning a lot because I always knew that venues had their kind of preset requirements and kind of how they go about this. I'm curious to know from your side, since you've been doing this for so long, would you say every venue is different in terms of how they work with you? And are there examples where you had a bit more of a difficult time working out contract negotiations with a venue? And why was that particular venue more difficult?
I think
You don't have to
from my
name names.
Yeah.
I would never working with um I would say like hotel chains that are all managed under those big names. It's a little more challenging to negotiate those contracts because they also have like a big legal team. And so it's not just the sales representative that you're working with on these negotiations. Like they have to run everything through their legal team to see if they can do that. So that's definitely more challenging than working with a boutique hotel or venue. And I would say it also depends on like the relationship that you have, right? And they might ebb and flow a little bit more in your favor. And the other piece of it would be for those larger chains that manage different brands. If you've done an event with them in the past and maybe you didn't ask for a certain concession then, I've experienced that they're less likely to give it to you for the next event because they can look at those past event orders and they're like, no, we didn't offer it that time, so we're not going to offer it this time either.
So precedent matters. The first time is probably the most important time. Do you see a difference in approach with these big brands based on the buying power of the end client? Like, are you seeing better negotiating power for Fortune 100 companies versus like SMBs in this space? Does the buying power matter, or is it the same challenge no matter what?
I think it's the same challenge. And even corporations aside, like associations that have very prestigious members, the hotels don't really know because they're not in that industry. So I can be like, this group is very important. They have large pocketbooks. They're going to be spending a lot of money on property. They can only take my word for that. And so they're a little bit more skeptical because they don't know the audience, because they don't know how big of a deal they are.
What about, so I see a lot of like, you're involved with sales and contracting on the front end, and then you get the contract signed and you're assigned a CSM. Does the ability of that CSM weigh into your decision making? Because I found if you get the right CSM, though, they will work with you outside of the contract sometimes to get things done. They'll be more flexible. But if you get the wrong one, they'll stick to the word. Like, what are you seeing in that transfer from sales to the folks on the ground?
I do think that the folks on the ground are a little bit more flexible because those are the people that you built the relationship with. And they also, like, they're kind of in the trenches with you, right? Because you have this vision, you know, it needs to happen and they need to make it happen. And so it's almost like they can relate to you a little bit more.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
However, I have worked with CSMs that are like, nope, this is what the contract is. This is how it stays. Absolutely not. Like, if you want to do this, that's an upcharge, or no, we won't offer that. You have to outsource this. So I guess it kind of depends.
Okay. Good. I saw a note that you had in the pre-work about site visits, and this one was particularly interesting for me because we always do site visits. Your call out was to walk the venue at the same day and time that you will actually use it. We don't necessarily do that. Why is that important?
So I didn't do that either.
Yeah.
It's important to understand like traffic patterns and parking, and I would say traffic patterns and parking are the thing that burned me specifically. I was doing an event in the Mill District of Minneapolis, and it was on a Thursday night. And if anybody knows the Mill District or the Warehouse District in Minneapolis, Thursday night is the time to go out. Like, people have date night, coworkers get drinks afterwards, like you're approaching the weekend, but it's not the weekend yet. And so Thursdays are busy, and I worked downtown. And so I didn't really have to deal with getting into the city or out of the city at the time that the event was going to take place. And I arranged my site visit at a less busy time, so I would avoid all of that in the middle of the day so I could be quick in and out. And so it was right between like peak traffic time coming into the city in the morning, commuting time, and then lunch. So it was right in that sweet spot in the middle of the day where everybody is like in their office working. And the event was at like 5:30 or 6 o'clock at night. And it was right on Washington. And again, if you're not familiar with Minneapolis, Washington is like a main drag. I used to live in North Loop, and getting from 35 to my apartment, it was like 2 miles. It would take me like 30 minutes sometimes based on the congestion and all the stoplights and whatnot. So I didn't account for that during my site visit. People were very late. It wasn't the guest experience that I wanted to offer. Parking was a nightmare. Just even pulling up to the front if they wanted to valet was a nightmare because they didn't have enough valet staffed. And so again, that's built into my process now to really get a firm understanding of like, okay, what does this environment look like and how are the guests going to experience this? Because we don't want guests arriving unhappy.
No. Or stressed.
It was at the beginning of the event, and the event went great. And so they left without that memory. I think if they had a bad exiting experience, it would have been worse.
Sure. That's huge. Very cool.
Yeah. Great call out. It makes me curious. Have you ever had an experience with a venue that has made a call out like that, where they may say, hey, like, you guys are doing your event at this time. This is kind of prime time for our guests. Like, I feel like hotels should let you know, as someone that's going to contract, these things that they're probably aware of. They're just not saying anything. Have you ever experienced that where the hotels try to help you out?
That's a good question. I can't think of any examples, but I'm sure I can think of an example. I don't know if you guys remember Aria at the June Moon in Minneapolis, but it's this like beautiful old warehouse with exposed brick and beautiful venue. They didn't have a lot of parking going on in their area. And they also had construction going on across the street, which used to be a surface lot. And so they did give me that line of sight, and I was in the winter. So I was able to prepare and get valet, and enough valet to accommodate everybody arriving at the same time, which was super helpful.
Yeah. Minneapolis is tough. Not enough parking. And then you also have 3 major sports teams that play down there. So no matter what time of year it is, there could be a game going on. So between Vikings, Timberwolves, and Twins, like, you could just hit a traffic jam any day of the week. It's wild. So it's not only like time of day, but what else is going on in town that could affect my event as well.
Yep.
Let's transition to the umbrella moment. So you're learning from these small paper cuts. You said you take live notes during a show and ask your team to do the same. How does that help you improve? How do you capture it in the chaos of a live event? I've found it's a best practice, but it's hard to ask our folks to sit down end of day and just take these notes when they're so exhausted.
Yeah, I like taking them in live time. My Apple Watch is my best friend, because then I just like tell Siri, like, hey, remind me at this time that this went wrong. And then at the end of the day, I can consolidate all those notes into the event specification guide and like my debrief tab. And then for multi-day experiences like incentives or conferences, what I'll do is I'll arrange like a standing team meeting for 15 minutes where we can talk about what went wrong the following day and how we adjust that day that's coming up. And that's not just the internal team, the planning team, but I also extend that invitation to all of the suppliers that we're working with, because I think everybody has a different perspective based on the function of their role that can help identify gaps.
Are you doing that at the start of the day or the end of the day?
The start of the day.
Okay, cool. Great.
And in the pre-work, you mentioned that you have a rule of debriefing with the client once the event's over. And you really hit home when you said most clients are always on to the next event the moment that event ends. And I've lived and breathed that many a times. So my question to you is, how do you actually get valuable feedback from those conversations once the event's over?
Yeah, great question. Well, that's why it's so important to take diligent notes, because you can really guide the conversation, right? If you just ask a blanket statement like, hey, what went well? What didn't go well? You don't get the feedback that you need to improve. But as a planner, you also know the things that are going wrong that maybe they didn't realize. And so you can bring up like, hey, this went wrong. Did you notice it? Did the guests notice it? Was there any feedback about it? And it might be like, oh, yeah, I forgot about that. And then they can give their point of view or whatever. But then they also could be like, we had no idea. And so if they had no idea, that's a success that you want to carry forward into those next events. So you're not just documenting the bad things, but also like the good things that you don't want to change.
Yeah, I love that. I was actually just on the other side of the office this morning talking to Arnie about our reflection process. And oftentimes we're not doing a debrief or a reflection until 3 or 4 weeks post event. And if you're not doing these kind of note taking activities during the event, there's so much that we forget because we're so inundated with information every day. I just think this is a great practice to either capture them in the moment, end of day, beginning of the day, write them down, because you will like, even as a person that lived it, you will have that like, oh yeah moment.
Yep.
For sure.
Yeah. If I don't write it down, I will not remember it.
Yes. Fair.
Fair. I mean, you're doing a million things at once.
Yeah.
I feel you're probably getting in 10,000, 15,000 steps, talking to hundreds of people. Writing stuff down has saved me plenty of time. So I couldn't agree more there.
So one of the things we do here at 180, and it sounds like you do too, is there's always a plan B, C, D, and E if things go sideways. But that only works if you have everybody on the same page. A backup plan doesn't work unless you have it communicated across the board. How are you communicating these contingencies in a way that don't send up worries or red flags?
To the suppliers?
Yeah.
Before every event, I always have a prep call with each supplier individually so they can ask their questions. I used to do it like with everybody, so everybody was hearing the same information, but they just got so long because everybody had their own questions that related to their job function. So we'll go through the run of show line by line. And if they have any questions about like, okay, well, what if this happens? I can realize like, hey, I didn't even think of that because I don't do like the AV setup or whatever, or I don't do that part of catering, or I'm not a photographer. And so we can usually develop a contingency plan together. This one time I was in a destination that never rains that time of year. And it rained that time of year.
Sure.
So we had a contingency plan, but it wasn't communicated to the production company that was getting ready for the next day, like the full day of conferences. And we didn't think that we would have to use the contingency plan. So it was very loose. And in the end, we ended up like renting a tent because there was no way that they were going to have the ballroom ready for us to be able to pivot and host inside. But then also with that tent rental, since that wasn't the contingency plan that was designed prior to the event, we didn't think about like lighting in the tent. And it got dark at 6 p.m. and it would have been really nice to have lighting in the
Everybody gets a candle.
I mean, luckily, like the production company that we were working with was great. They're like, we have uplights, we can just like scatter them around. Like it was fine. Again, it's always fine, right?
Yep.
But it was a scramble and it was an added layer of stress that just didn't need to happen.
Yeah, it's one thing I say to my team all the time is one way to reduce stress is to know it's going to work out one way or the other. And you have the experience to get it done. So just like push the stress down, get to solutions mode, and then we look back on it later and say, we solved it. Did we do it right? I don't know, but we did it. Well, we always do it somehow.
Yeah, it always works out.
Yeah,
for sure. And kudos to you, Alyssa. You seem like a very calming person, which is perfect for a planner. So I feel like you exude that and pass that down to the rest of your staff and the colleagues that you're working with, which ultimately gets you to a much better outcome in any situation. I feel like you could take on anything just based on your personality and your presence, which leads me to my next question. For someone that is still treating these little cuts and these little experiences as big gashes, what's the first habit that you'd call out that can help change that feeling that they're having?
Thank you, by the way, for that compliment. That was very kind of you because it doesn't always feel that I'm cool as a cucumber,
Yeah.
when you
Most people in your shoes are that way. They don't ever feel it, and that's why I always go out of my way, especially with planners, to let them know, like, hey, you come off really poised, really calm, even when things are on fire, because you have that mindset of, you're going to figure it out and you're going to learn from it to prevent it from happening the next time. So
Thank you. But to answer your question, I think making time for education and community building is that habit that you kind of have to build. And that kind of sounds silly when I say that out loud, but we get so busy and we focus on like the job that's in front of you and the next job and like 2 years into the future, right? We're always planning. But it is really important to develop time for education and relationship building and networking. That has gotten me farther than anything else, than any mistakes that I've made. It's really that education and community piece.
Man, that is a common theme on these podcasts. We hear it all the time, and I just can't stress how important it is to continue to not only be part of the community, but also give to it in a way that when you need that community, that they're there for you, and it doesn't feel like you're just showing up when you need something. I think something we can all relate to is a lot of us are on LinkedIn, and there's a certain population of folks that are on there only when they need something. And then there's another that are there trying to create value. And it becomes abundantly clear when those folks just show up asking for something, and the reluctance is there. So build your communities early, build around education. You said, you'd have found education and community earlier if you knew or had the opportunity. So if you're out there, you're a 1 to 5 year meeting planner, find MPI, find Club Ichi or whatever you want to do, and find a group of people that you can give something to, because someday they'll give something back. So yes, I can't stress that enough. Community, community, community.
Yes.
Speaking of MPI, you didn't just join MPI, you jumped in, you joined a committee, then led membership care, and then were a VP of membership, and every job change you had made trace back to the relationship to the industry. Say more about that. Like, why did you, a lot of people might just show up and attend. You really just like jumped in with both feet.
Well, I've always liked volunteering. That's always been ingrained in me. Usually it's more like philanthropic. And so when I was approached with an opportunity to volunteer, I'm like, yes, sign me up. Absolutely. Like, I want to maximize my membership. I want to squeeze everything out of it that I can. And I am so grateful that I did, because you can go to all of the monthly meetings, but they're usually larger and you don't really develop the relationships. You can network, you can exchange cards, you can like break into conversation and be like, hi, I'm Alyssa, I'm new here. But you don't really get to know those people outside of like what they do, right? So when you join a committee, it's a smaller segment and you're usually solving problems together, and you have more engagement opportunity and you really get to know people on a more personal level. So like that's where the magic happens, right? That's where you learn who you can exchange ideas with, who you do want to work with in the future, because it is less transactional. It's more relationship based. And it's so funny because like it pays off tenfold. So just this week, 2 days ago, I was on a bus tour. So like a local fam of some venues in Minneapolis and St. Paul that was put on by MPI and Meet Minneapolis. And it was great. I saw so many people, so many planners that I've had relationships with in the past. And it was really wonderful to reconnect with my people. But I wasn't able to stay at like for the social event afterwards because I had a prior commitment. And because of my relationships in the membership committee, I got a message on LinkedIn later that night that was like, hey, Brianna said I need to talk to you about this. And so like I had people networking on my behalf because they know who I am. And yeah, now I have a meeting set up with that woman. And So those are the things that can blossom from really investing time in your community and those relationships. And so speaking of that, I owe Brianna a thank you card.
Shout out Brianna. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. That's beautiful. I want to shift to talking about the blind spots that nobody prices in. So in the pre-work, you said that you see people underestimate how long it takes to plan an event. You also see how much work happens before and after an event. And you also have said that you see people underestimate the amount of money that it takes to put on a good event. What do you think out of those hurts people the most when it comes to planning an event, and why?
I think the one that hurts the most is the time commitment. Because if it's a single day event that's like 4 hours, maybe like a half day even, they don't see all of the like the site visits that you do, the outreach that you do with the vendors, and all of the like logistical pieces. Like you're kind of putting a puzzle together, right? So that takes a lot of pre-work. And then post-event, like you're reconciling, right? You're getting the invoices and the balances. And sometimes that's like after your event, like the supplier has an event after that, right? And so it takes a lot longer than somebody would realize. And they only see you the day of, right? Like you have check-in meetings with them and you send status updates periodically. But I often get the question, like, why is this thousands of dollars for one day?
Mm.
And so they don't really account for that. And like when I present these planning estimates and I get those questions, it starts to create doubt in my mind. Like, am I worth what I quoted them? And I really question my value. And I've been in the situation where then like I underprice them and they're basically getting my services for free or I'm losing money. And so I think that one's the most challenging.
Yeah, value framing is incredibly important. And we talked about this on the pod before too, but there is a big difference between being the planner and then running a planning business and sticking to your guns and understanding your value. And I think you have unique perspective, Alyssa, that you can put out there. Like you can literally say, I was that graphic designer that got put in the event seat. And at that time, here's all the things that I missed. You are hiring the planner that's been through all of that. And that's why it costs more, because you're paying for my years of experience. And I think if you position it that way, the value prop becomes really easy because you're not framing it through costs, you're framing it through outcomes. And I think there's power behind that. With that, I want to give you a platform to talk a little bit about Covalent Events. You said that the event is the vehicle, the bond is the product. And you and I talked a couple of weeks ago in preparation for this. And this is my opinion, not everybody's, but I think there's a huge opportunity for planners like yourself or small to medium planning agencies to really do the high touch work that some of the bigger agencies cannot. I think some of the bigger agencies are growing and they continue to grow and they take on more work, and then their planners get stressed and they do what's required, but they're not pushing, they're not as available, they're not as high touch as folks like you can be. Are you seeing the same thing? And is that the value that you can bring at Covalent?
Yeah. I would agree with that. Everybody's trying to do more with less.
Yeah.
Everybody's trying to be more productive with less staff, with less expense. And that does create a lot of burnout. And when you aren't running your own business, you don't really have a say in what programs are that you accept, right? They're given to you. You don't have a choice of who you're working with. So like maybe you don't really jive with the client. And so what I've really enjoyed is I take on projects that I know I can provide value in and I know I have time for, and I can be realistic with what I want to offer and the time that it takes. And as an employee, you can't always do that. And so I think that's a huge value of working with somebody that's self-employed. They have those choices.
Yeah. I see that every day. Oh my goodness. There's so much going on in the industry. There's been so many mergers and acquisitions and so many people caught in the crossfire of this. And it's not the planner's fault on the ground. They're just getting thrown so much work that they can't give you the high touch that needs. And if those folks struck out on their own or joined smaller agencies, I think the industry as a whole would be better. But yeah, the behemoths.
Yeah, and it's hard to tell your boss, like, I don't have capacity for this.
Right.
We can't do this.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that is very true. In terms of your experience with thousands of events that you've run, how do you handle self-validation? And what I mean by that is, I feel like we're all critical of ourselves in very critical ways when it comes to defining a success, defining that we did a good job. What are some of the signs that you often validate? You know what, Alyssa, you did a great job on this event. You avoided this thing. What do those signs look like, if at all?
That's a great question.
Yeah, I think part of our value is we're self-critical all the time.
Well, that's the struggle for me. It's like so like, Alyssa, you probably don't know this, but one of my hobbies is photography, and I've been doing it for about almost 8 years now. And what I've learned is that every single photography client is different. When you provide the final assets, you may get a wow, this is amazing. You may get a thumbs up. You may get nothing. And I've learned that I find validation in outcomes that I didn't necessarily foresee. So sometimes I get validation by knowing that no one said anything after I shared the final assets, because that means that they genuinely loved it and there's no additional comments. But on the flip side, if someone is giving me praise, I may take that a little less to heart, because it's like maybe they're saying that because they just want to be nice. So I'm curious, from the event side, are there any signs that give you that validation for a particular event where you say, you know what, I killed this, or we negotiated the heck out of that contract and I know that I got the best of them?
That's a good question. I guess what's most validating to me is getting repeat clients.
Yeah.
Like, they took a shot on me for working together for the first time, and if they want to work with me again, that's amazing. That validates my work right there. I think also people referring me, and especially to others that they respect. And this one incentive that I did, it was very validating, because one of the guests is like, well, can Alyssa do something similar for me, to the host? And that felt really good. And like, luckily the host told me that, otherwise I would have never known.
Yeah, that's amazing. And that stuff goes a long way, I feel like, for your own internal moral compass. You may not talk about it a lot to others, but I think that is why we do what we do. When you have those moments and you see people really appreciate the effort and the energy and the time that you're giving, and not only that, but others are telling you, hey, like, we really enjoyed this and we want to listen back, I think that's why we do it. So shout out to you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, and it's important to celebrate the wins. We try to like get out for dinner or do a shout out and a company check-in, but sometimes you get so busy that you don't even recognize the wins and you're just on to the next thing. And we're also self-critical, and I think that's part of our superpower, I guess. But like, I read this thing once and it was like, if somebody else treated you the way that you treated you, would you be friends with that person? And sometimes the answer is no. And you're like, okay, JR, be nice to JR. He's an okay guy.
That's really good points.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like we're naturally hard on ourselves.
Oh, for sure.
Just because that's the industry. That's kind of how we're bred. And
Yeah.
You look to your right, you look to your left, you see that the next person's treating themselves that way.
Yeah.
You know, it's never enough. You can never celebrate the wins. It's always on to the next thing. So I always stress importance on taking it easy on yourself. from time to time, giving yourself that positive encouragement and reinforcement.
Yeah, I think it's easy to be your own worst critic and have the head trash because you know what's how the event is supposed to run and you know what goes wrong, even if other people don't.
Mm-hmm. Chris, should we jump into lightning round?
Yeah, let's have some fun.
Okay, Alyssa, we didn't give you these questions on purpose, and we're going to hit you with them. Just give us like a one word or one sentence answer real quick. Chris, I'll let you jump in first. Set the tone.
Sounds good. This one should be easy. What's the most beautiful venue that you've ever hosted an event at?
The most beautiful. That's a tough one. I've been to some pretty beautiful venues, but I'm gonna stay local and say Aria at the June Loon. It's a church now, which is really like kind of disappointing because special events can't happen there. But it was gorgeous. It had like a bunch of pop art through it, like above the stage. It said like the world is yours in different like neon lights, and there were balconies that you could go up, and it used to be an old produce warehouse, and so it has that like grungy feel but with like floral and uplighting and everything. Like it was just spectacular.
Love it.
That sounds cool. Very unique.
Come to Minneapolis, people. I know it's hard in the winter, but come up here. Ballroom. Yeah, it is hot and smoky. Ballroom banquet chicken. Yes or no?
No.
Okay.
Oh man, that's a funny one, JR. I like that one. Sticking to events, what is your typical morning, afternoon, evening process when you're on site at an event? And I'm talking from the moment you wake up, are you rushing to Starbucks? What is your routine like to get you through the day?
That's a good question. I usually prep everything the night before. So in the morning, I can just like, my clothes are laid out and like leaving the house is easy. I usually forget to eat throughout the day because I'm running around a lot. So in my event emergency kit, I always try to pack like some granola bars, like things that I can eat on the go. And then I always get to the venue earlier than I said that I would, which venues probably hate me for that. But it makes me feel more at peace to be early and even just like sit in the parking lot if I can't get in the building. Because I can like go through like the run of show and just prepare myself like that quiet time before the storm. And then in the afternoon, I don't know, I'm running around. I'm receiving, suppliers are coming. I try to stagger them so I can greet everybody at different times and I'm not pulled in a million directions. I guess that's a morning thing, depending on when the event is. But then usually throughout the day, there's a lot of moving pieces and just like checking in to make sure that everything is going according to plan. There's a lot of people that you need to touch base with. And then in the evening, like the evening when I wrap up, when I'm done with the event.
Yeah, so for evenings, there's two types of planners. There's the planners that wrap up, they go to their room and they keep working, or there's the planners that wrap up, they go to their room and they're going out and they're staying out, going to dinner, having drinks, networking, socializing, and then next day, somehow miraculously, they just have the same energy that they had the night before. So I'm curious which one you are.
I think it depends on what day of like the multi-day event is. Like last night, that's usually where it's like, I can breathe, everything happened, no emergencies took place. Like in the end, everything's great. And you can like celebrate with the team and the suppliers and whatnot, let your hair down. But if it's like day number 2, I'm definitely consolidating my notes, answering emails that came in throughout the day, because I think that's another thing that people that aren't in the industry don't understand is like just because you're on site doesn't mean that you're not receiving emails and like other people are reaching out to you, other clients for different programs. And so you need that time to be responsive. So does that answer your question?
Yeah. No, it's great answer.
On-site is 24/7. It's just,
It is.
it's the Wild West. We're pretty clear about that when we interview here. We're just like, yeah, typical work week in office, but if you're traveling, just be ready. It's gonna be 16-hour
Yep.
days.
Yeah, working in the plane, working in your room.
Yeah. I think the worst invention was Wi-Fi on an airplane because it took away all the fun.
100%.
Aisle seat or window seat, and why?
Window seat.
Why?
I like, well, if I go to sleep, I can rest my head on the wall. But I also like to look out the window.
So, follow up. Since you're on the window seat, you're not one of these people. Opinion on people who stand up the second the plane's parked.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't really impact me.
Yeah.
I know that I'm gonna
You're too
be
nice.
one of the last people out because like I chose the inside of the window seat.
So I have to ask, I've never been to Minnesota. Are Pronto pups worth the hype?
At the state fair? Absolutely.
I have to try it when I go. Okay.
Are you gonna be here for the state fair?
When is the state fair?
It is the first 12 or the last 12 days of August, and it ends on Labor Day.
Okay. I don't plan to be there, but that could change. I've been meaning for years now to come visit JR, and it just has not happened. So maybe we should go to the state fair, JR, and record me trying the Pronto pup.
We can bring Alyssa. Well, let's firm up a verbal commitment here. State Fair 2026.
Let's do it.
Okay, so Pronto pup or corn dog then? Like, what are you getting? Because they're different.
Me?
I was gonna say, aren't they the same thing?
No.
No, they're different. I would do a Pronto pup.
Hell yeah.
You can get a corn dog anywhere. You can get a corn dog from the grocery store in the frozen food aisle.
Yeah, corn dog is like cornmeal batter, and Pronto pup is like pancake batter. We will educate you, Chris.
Yeah, I'm green. I don't know too much about it. Alyssa, for your context, I learned about this probably like 5 episodes ago. Never heard of it before until JR brought it up. So we had a whole segment about it. So knowing that you're from the area, I figured I'd get your take on it as well.
Oh my goodness. I love the state fair. I worked at the state fair for several years, and it's just the energy is so much fun and the food is really weird. One of my favorite things to get there is the chicken in a waffle cone, and it's like chicken nuggets with like gravy over it in a sweet waffle cone with like a milk what is it? Like a milk dud in the bottom. No, a malted milk ball. It's a weird concept. It's really good.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to get way off track now. When I was growing up, the milk booth had free milk, but now you have to pay for it. So we used to go and get the bucket of cookies and then walk over to the milk booth and just sit there and house an entire bucket of cookies and milk.
Yeah. And the trick to avoiding those lines is go in the morning.
Yes.
Go in the morning, get to Sweet Martha's before everybody else gets there.
Now I'm hungry. Last question from me. Do you have a travel hack that you want to share?
Not really. I don't know.
What's the weirdest thing that you put in your suitcase?
The weirdest thing?
Yeah.
I don't know if this is weird, but a steamer.
Oh, yeah. It's unique.
That's smart.
Like you have to wear professional clothes and they get all wrinkly, and
it's more efficient than just throwing it in the shower. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I have a story about that too, but I won't get into it.
Bring it.
It didn't end well.
Now we got to know.
Shower didn't work.
So it wasn't me, it was somebody else. But they put their dress in the shower to steam out the wrinkles, and they closed the door so all the steam would stay in the bathroom, and they didn't realize that their dress was actually getting doused.
Oh no.
So when I got there, like we broke out like as many hair dryers
I was
as
gonna
we
say
could
dryer.
to try to get it dry.
Bummer.
That is funny.
Chris, any more quick hits?
Last one that I typically ask our guests, it's another travel question. So you're on the plane. Are you reading? Are you sleeping? Are you eating? Are you listening to music? What's your advice when you're traveling?
I listen to music, but I check email. Like I think
Okay.
that's a really great time to just have some dedicated time to check emails. And if I'm all caught up on email, chances are they're not filed away. I'm one of those people that has like a folder for everything to stay organized. And if I have a lot of emails that are read in my inbox, I can't stay organized like that. I know people that do. Like I think my mom has like 2,000 already taken care of emails just sitting in her inbox, and that stresses me out.
Uh-huh.
So I try to use that time efficiently because nobody can call me and interrupt me.
Inbox
Nice.
0 all the way.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm the opposite. I save everything.
I
for
save
my own
it.
weird reasons.
It's just in a
Yeah, I save it
folder.
in
It's just not in the inbox.
Yeah. I like it right in the inbox because I know that I can search that thing top to bottom and find whatever I need to without having to go and dig through thousands of archived places. So I'm on the other side with you guys on this one.
You are
Stresses me out.
objectively wrong.
Oh, man.
Alyssa, we like to finish with one question that we ask everybody, and that question is, what's one piece of advice you'd give somebody early in their career in this industry?
We already touched on it, but join an association.
Yeah.
Immediately. Usually if they're new in the industry, there's like a discount, which is always great. But then also the value of just like jumpstarting your relationships and your education.
Absolutely. Do it. Find a group, find a community. Ideally in person.
Oh yeah, 100%.
No Reddit threads. Get out there. IRL.
Or LinkedIn groups.
Yeah. Alyssa, thank you for coming on the pod. This is really insightful. I think you dropped a lot of great nuggets. Yeah, thank you.
Definitely
Thank you.
a lot of profound statements. So shout out to you.
You guys are too kind. I really appreciate being on this. Thank you.
All right, Chris, a lot to take away there. I think what spoke to me the most and that resonated was those little cuts feel like huge gashes when they're happening to you earlier in your career. And, you know, I don't know if there's a way to avoid that. I think maybe some of that's just reps and getting it to happen and sort of navigating through it. But maybe just saying it out loud in platforms like this, if you're listening, like, hey, don't take everything so personally, so seriously. You will get through this. You will persevere, and this will just be another learning moment for you. So not everything is a catastrophe.
100%. And my biggest takeaway is learn from others. Alyssa raised a lot of things that I was unaware of in the industry that I've been in for 10 plus years. And to know that some of these things exist and she was only able to find them just through trial and error and experience makes you think about things differently. And it shapes your mind when you go through things that you perceive as negative or a mistake or you dropping the ball. You learn from those things, but not only do you learn from them, it sets you up for success in the future. So she's a living testament to that, and really enjoyed speaking with her.
All right, we'll put some links in the bio or the description here. Alyssa Frank, Covalent Events. We'll link your LinkedIn and your website, and check her out. Give her a call if you need to plan an event and you need that high touch white glove service.
Until next time, guys.
22 and green, first job going under. Watch the print money room go quiet as thunder. They called it a bubble, I called it the floor. Pulled out from beneath me and it came back for more. .com, then the towers, then the houses, and the whole world stood still. 4 times the same lesson, 4 times against my will. So I learned to slow the whole thing down. See the seam on the ball before it leaves the mound. When the room is calmest, when you make the call, build the boat in the harbor, not the squall. Paddle before